Hi, I'm Ashton, and today I wanted to talk about something that I find cis people talking a lot about, not even as a question, but more as like a trans people are brave. So I wanted to have the discussion, are trans people inherently brave? Are trans people brave because of the society around them? I feel like I'm in philosophy class. This would be a good essay, writing that down for later. Anyways, so a lot of the times when trans people do come out or talk about getting surgery, cis people will say, "You're so brave." And a lot of us see that as very demeaning or like condescending, right? Because it's kind of a, "Oh, good, like you're so brave for doing that, congratulations." It's similar to how people will say like, "Oh, you're so brave" to disabled people. And I think I don't just speak for myself when I say it often feels like you're telling us that we're brave for just existing as who we are. And we don't feel brave for just being, you know? So a lot of the times when people say, "Oh, you're so brave as a trans person," a lot of us just roll our eyes because it often just feels belittling, and not all of us are big fans of being called brave. But I wanted to look at it a bit more in depth today, so that's what we're going to talk about. So I figured, like every shitty video essay, I should first reference the dictionary definition for the thing that I'm talking about. So bravery. What is bravery? So if you look up brave, the definition that comes up is ready to face and endure danger or pain, showing courage. By coming out and by fighting for your existence as a trans person, you are putting yourself in danger in a way, and you are making it so that you are ready to endure pain, because you know when you come out, like I knew, and I feel like the majority of us know when we come out, that it's not gonna be fucking easy. It's really difficult to exist as a trans person. It's difficult to thrive as a trans person. And by the definition of bravery, we are putting ourselves in that circumstance where we are enduring danger and enduring pain, so maybe we are brave. But I wanted to examine why that pain and that danger exist in the first place. So if you ask a trans person the pain that they experience, I feel like most people would say one of two things: dysphoria, or like the societal transphobia that we live around. So first, to examine dysphoria. I don't think people are brave for facing dysphoria. Dysphoria is not something that you choose to go through. And from the definition of brave that I read, and from my interpretation of bravery, bravery is something that you have to actively choose to put yourself through. And you don't choose to experience dysphoria, just like you don't choose to have depression or you don't choose to be disabled, which is why it may seem condescending when you tell a disabled person they are brave, because it's not something that they choose to go through. You're not brave if you're forced to go through something. I wouldn't say that I'm brave for dealing with my OCD, because it's just something that I have. It's something that I have to deal with regardless of whether or not I want to. I'm not brave for dealing with it because it's just a part of who I am. It's not something that I can be like, "Oh, I don't feel like dealing with my OCD today." Dysphoria is similar in the sense that I can't just be like, "Oh, I don't feel like dealing with my dysphoria today. I'm just not going to be dysphoric today." As much as I wish it worked like that, it doesn't. So in my interpretation, I don't think trans people are brave just for experiencing dysphoria, because it's not something that we choose to put ourselves through. And if you look at the definition of brave, where you choose to put yourself through something dangerous or hurtful, we're not brave because we don't choose to go through dysphoria. And it's something that we deal with through social transition, through physical transition. It's something that we learn to deal with, but it's not something that we choose to deal with. Dysphoria isn't something that we choose to put ourselves through or brave through to get to some goal. It's just something that a lot of us experience. So when cis people call trans people brave for being trans, I feel like that's an expression of misunderstanding of dysphoria and misunderstanding of how being trans works. For example, this was the response I got when I came out to the person that I ride under, like horses. She told me like I was so brave because she could never do that. And I was like, of course you couldn't do that. You aren't trans. So you couldn't just choose to be trans. That's not how being trans works. And obviously it was meant to be a compliment. She wasn't meaning to belittle me or to make me feel like a child or anything. It's meant to be a compliment. It just comes from a place of misunderstanding what being trans is. Or maybe just not really getting the definition of brave. I don't know, maybe that could be it too. The reason that I believe a lot of trans people are brave is the transphobia that exists. Transphobia is why a lot of people go stealth, and obviously that's not a cop-out. That's not them not being brave. That's them choosing something for their own safety. But people like me that are out and very, very trans in the public, like, it's something that we have to deal with. And it's different from dysphoria because it's not something that has to exist. Like, dysphoria isn't something we can change, but transphobia is something that is rampant throughout society, but it's something that doesn't have to be. Being trans is not a choice. Being transphobic is, in the sense that you could easily change that by doing a little bit of self-education, or maybe just like listening to a trans person every once in a while. So for me, that's why I'm uncomfortable being called brave by cis people. It's not because it feels demeaning, which it does in a way, but it's more because the reason that I see myself as brave is because I have to deal with transphobic bullshit. It's not because of existing as a trans person. It's because of the people around me that make it difficult for me to exist. So when cis people tell me I'm brave, it feels like less of a, oh, good job, like you're existing as a trans person, congratulations, and more of a, hey, good job dealing with the transphobic bullshit that society based around cis people has implemented into the world. Like, I would so much rather have a cis person tell me, hey, I'm sorry you have to deal with transphobia all the time. Like, I'm sorry some cis people are really shitty. I'd much rather have them say that to me than say, oh, you're so brave. Good job being trans. I know it must be so difficult. I can't even imagine. But of course, this is just one trans person's take on it. If you're trans and you feel like you are brave from dealing with your dysphoria every single day, then great, call yourself brave. Like, you're allowed to call yourself that. But don't let cis people belittle you by telling you that you're brave if you don't feel that way. If you want to call a black trans woman brave because she has to deal with the fact that she is infinitely more likely to be murdered, and she has to deal with the news every week of not only another trans person being murdered, but another trans woman of color being murdered, yes, that might be them being brave. But having a cis person tell them that is just, it just feels so demeaning because it's cis people that are killing trans people. It's not us going out into the world and meeting this unavoidable fact that trans women die. It's cis people that have created all of this transphobia and created the idea that it's okay to kill trans people. Like, we don't live through this bullshit because it's something that just naturally occurs. We live through this bullshit because cis people have created it. Yeah, dysphoria sucks, but it's something that can be dealt with through social transition, through physical transition, through cutting your hair even. But when it comes to dealing with transphobia, it's not something that we can just fix by going on hormones. It's something that we have to fight oftentimes tooth and nail to get through. That's just my take on it. If you're trans and you have a different opinion, cool. But if you're cis and you have a different opinion, I would advise that you listen to a bunch of trans people on this topic because it's not just me that's talked about this, I'm sure. So yeah, thank you for listening. I hope that I've kind of cleared up my position on this a little bit. People have definitely called me brave in the past, and I've always just kind of been like, thanks. But this is how I actually feel about it, and I wanted to talk about it, so I did just now. You're welcome. Anyways, goodbye. I hope that if you feel brave, it's because you are fucking brave, and not because cis people are implementing this idea of bravery onto you because you're forced to live through transphobia every day of your damn life. I love you. Yes, goodbye. I will talk to you later, maybe.